Hi everybody, this is Bill Knudsen, and you're listening to the Sportsocology Show. It's Saturday, May 10th, 2014. Hope you're having a great start to the weekend. I know I am. Looking forward to doing another show right now. So what I'm going to get into, of course, got to talk about the NFL draft. That's going on right now. I believe they're in the 6th round. So I'm going to talk about my New York Giants and how I think they did. I'm not going to get into all 32 teams because that would take the whole week just to talk about that. I'm going to talk about my Giants. I'm a big LSU college fan, so I'm going to talk about a couple of their big names that got drafted. I might even throw in a couple of the other teams that were near the top of the draft that were more newsworthy, but I think that what every real football fan knows about the draft is really made in the later rounds, like rounds 4 through 7 is really where, it lets you know if your team is going to be successful when you find the diamonds in the rough, so to speak. Because, normally in the first round, maybe even the second round, everybody knows all of those guys that are getting picked, but when you get later on, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, you get some of the no-name guys, from the smaller schools, and you might not know them, and you haven't seen them on TV very much, but that's what really makes a successful draft for the teams. And normally you got to wait a couple of years, 2, 3, maybe even 4 years, before you find out if your draft was successful or not. But besides the Giants, I'm going to talk about, maybe a few teams at the top, a couple of things that caught my interest, and we'll see how that goes. Obviously, I'm going to talk about the NBA playoffs that are continuing tonight, 8 o'clock Eastern Time. So I'm going to get right into it. To start with the draft, I think the Texans did what I anticipated they would do and what I think they should have done. Jadeveon Clowney, they picked number 1 the other night. He's a once in every 10 years, maybe once in every generation type of talent with his height, his speed, his strength. I've heard, as I've mentioned before, I've heard issues about his work ethic, but the people that know a lot more than I do, they see him and talk to people that see him every day, saying his work ethic is not a problem. And if that's the case, I think this guy could be, unbelievably good. He could be an all-pro for many years. He has Hall of Fame type talent. So if what the experts are saying is true, with Clowney on one end of the Texans defensive line and J.J. Watt on the other end, it's going to be a nightmare for whoever they play, especially the AFC South. And they really need to get pressure on the quarterback because in the AFC South, of course, the Indianapolis Colts are there, and they've got Andrew Luck, and if you don't get pressure on Luck, he'll just tear you apart. So I think the Texans did a really good job getting Clowney, and then later on, because they still need a quarterback, they waited till late in the draft, I believe it was the 5th round, before they drafted Savage from Pittsburgh. Now you might not know a lot about him because he plays at Pitt, doesn't get a lot of national TV exposure, but he's got the size, he's got the arm strength. He's a work in progress, but I think he's got the skills. It probably won't be the 2014 season, but maybe 2015, 2016. If he gets in there and gets some work and has the right tutelage, that he could be the Texans quarterback for the next 8, 10, 12 years. Who knows? It's always, or at least just about always, a crapshoot. As I've said before, there have been many high draft picks that couldn't miss, that did. Many guys that got picked at the end of the draft, or maybe didn't get drafted at all, that end up really good pros or Hall of Famers. So it's kind of a crapshoot most of the time. But I think Clowney was definitely worth taking, number one. I wouldn't have done what the Falcons were rumored to be doing and trade a whole bunch of picks to move up to get him. I would not have done that. But I think it was good that the Texans took Clowney number one, and I don't think they'll regret that. I think the Jaguars have many needs, and it struck me, it kind of surprised me that they took Blake Bortles, the quarterback from Central Florida. Now, obviously, I'm not surprised that they need a quarterback. I did not expect them to take him that high at number 3. He's got everything that you'd want in a quarterback, I believe. I just don't know if he's been tested really well in college at Central Florida. I don't think he played a lot of the top quality defenses that college football had to offer. I'm not saying he can't play. I mean, he's got the arm strength, he's got the size, he's got everything that you'd want. It just kind of surprised me that the Jaguars picked him that high, but obviously they know more than I do, and they think that he's going to be the stud quarterback for the next 10 or 12 years, and they're kind of just like the Texans. The Texans and the Jaguars, they don't really have much at quarterback right now as it is, so you really don't have a heck of a lot to lose. But if you draft really, really high on that, high first-round draft pick doesn't end up doing anything for you, it can set you back for the next year, 2, 3 years. But I think Bortles will at least be a solid quarterback. I think he'll have an excellent chance to start, opening day 2014, and he doesn't really have a lot of competition, just like Savage in Houston. But Houston has Ryan Fitzpatrick, who's been a serviceable quarterback, so I think in Houston that Fitzpatrick will start and Savage will be on the bench learning, maybe get some garbage reps in a game that the Texans are winning or losing by a lot. Obviously, in that kind of game, football, you're always just one play away from an injury. But I think Savage will do a lot of learning if Fitzpatrick stays healthy. But I think Bortles in Jacksonville has an excellent chance of being the starter come September. But we'll have to see. Obviously, the Browns got my interest. They were picking 4th, but then they ended up trading down to 9. And I really thought at 9 they were going to take Johnny Manziel, but they didn't. But then at the end of the first round, they ended up trading back up to 22 to get Johnny Manziel, which I thought they were going to do with their first pick in the first round. But they did it with their second pick in the first round. And, I think that's going to be great for them. They've been down for a while. They have very loyal, passionate fans in Cleveland. They're starved for a championship. They haven't won a major championship in any sport in 50 years. So they are starved for it. And from what I hear, the phones were ringing off the hook. The ticket sales in Cleveland for not only game tickets, which they've already sold out every game, every home game the Browns have, but also thousands of season ticket requests have been taken care of ever since they got Manziel. I don't think Cleveland has much at quarterback. I know, was it Hoyer, I think? He did all right until he got hurt, but they weren't really winning a lot of games. I don't think they have much. I think Manziel still is a work in progress. He's got the it factor. He's exciting. He can run. He can throw. But at this level, he's going to have to learn to get out of bounds. He's going to have to learn to slide, because 6 feet, 205 pounds, he's going to get killed by these monster linebackers and linemen, and even the safeties, big, strong, and fast. So he's going to have to, obviously the idea is to get rid of the ball, as quickly as you can, make the reads quickly, get rid of it. But, he has that it factor, the escapability, and that's a good thing to have. But he needs to get as much as he can and either get out of bounds or get on the ground. He can't be taking on these linebackers, these safeties, so on and so forth, if he wants to have any longevity in the NFL, because he's built like Michael Vick. I think he's a much better passer than Michael Vick. I think he's got a bigger brain than Michael Vick, but athletics-wise, he kind of reminds me of Vick. Vick was faster, but Vick took too many hits, and Manziel has to learn from things like that. He's not Ben Roethlisberger, 6'4", 250. He doesn't have that kind of size. But I think Manziel's going to challenge for the starting job, and if not at the start of the season, I think by the end of the season, if things aren't going well, maybe halfway through the season, maybe, if things aren't going well in Cleveland, if not earlier than halfway through the season, the fans are going to start yelling for Manziel. And I think we'll get the chance this coming season to see what he's capable of, but I think he's going to be at least a good player. I'm not saying he's going to be a Hall of Famer, but I certainly don't think he's going to be a bust. I guess I got to talk about the Falcons since I live in Atlanta. The last couple of seasons, they're like second to last in terms of quarterback sacks. So they haven't been getting much pressure, obviously, on the quarterback. So they addressed that. They got a couple of defensive players. I know their first pick was an offensive lineman, because last year Matt Ryan got pressured more than any other quarterback in the NFL, and they got a stud in Jake Matthews, a potential stud. Obviously, the bloodline. He's the seventh Matthews in their family. His cousin Clay Matthews, probably will end up in the Hall of Fame, linebacker for the Packers. His father, Bruce Matthews, already is a Hall of Fame offensive lineman, so he definitely has the bloodline, and I think he's going to be a stud for the Falcons. You put him on Ryan's blind side, obviously he's not going to get as much pressure on him as he did last year. So I think the Falcons at 4-12 last year, that was an anomaly. I think they have a very good chance of completely turning it around. Maybe even 12-4. I don't know, but at least 10 wins. I say the Falcons will get at least 10 and get a playoff spot, but I hope not, because I'm not a Falcons fan. So I'm hoping they don't improve, but I think in this draft that they did, and they'll get the pieces back together to get back into contention, even though that'll make me sad. The Vikings, I think they did what they had to do. It took them a little while. They ended up getting Teddy Bridgewater. I thought they would end up getting Bortles maybe at 8, but he went third to the Jaguars. But they ended up getting Teddy Bridgewater, who, I don't know, I was just not tremendously impressed with him at Louisville. He's a nice kid and everything. He's got nice numbers. They won some games, but I don't know. I just don't see a stud quarterback when I look at Teddy Bridgewater. Could be totally wrong. Obviously, the Vikings think I'm wrong. And, they know more about it than I do. So I'm certainly not saying they made a bad pick. I'm just not excited about Bridgewater. I would have gone, with a couple of other guys, before him, including Manziel, because the Vikings picked at 8, and they could have had Manziel. And I think Manziel has a better upside than Bridgewater does. Could be totally wrong. Manziel could end up a bust. Bridgewater could end up a perennial All-Pro. I don't know. We'll have to see how that goes. But at least the Vikings addressed the quarterback issue, which they really had to do. They've got other issues too, but the glaring one was at quarterback, and they really don't have a quarterback. And if you don't have a decent quarterback in this league, it's going to be a rough ride for you. So I think the Vikings might have addressed that. I'm going to jump right to my Giants, and I'm looking at what they did. And we lost Hakeem Nicks. Okay, I believe he went to Carolina. So we needed, a slot guy. We got Cruz over there. I like Cruz. I hope he does a lot of salsa dancing in the end zone this year. But we needed some help after we lost Nicks. and we got Odell Beckham Jr. from LSU. I love the pick. Now, I watched Odell his years at LSU. I'm a big LSU fan. I watched all their games. This guy's a stud. He has great hands, he runs great routes, and he's extremely dangerous when he has the ball. He can turn any short pass, any medium pass into touchdowns. He's got that excitement. He's got the skill. He runs precise routes. He catches the football. He puts his hands on it. He catches it, and he's got the breakaway speed. So I think obviously that will be very helpful with him, and Victor Cruz gives them two really good weapons. I'm sure Eli is happy about that. Eli struggled last year, though. I mean, he made mistakes on his own, but also he had a lot of heat put on him that I'm sure didn't help in him rushing throws and throwing interceptions. Now, I'm not trying to excuse Eli. He had a terrible season, but he also had some help in throwing 27 interceptions, I think it was. So their second pick, they got a center, Weston Richburg from Colorado State. I'd be lying if I said I really know much about him. I just did some reading, research, not only for the show, but I wanted to see about him, and I'm hearing good things, that he's got good mechanics, good strength. He's a good kid. I really didn't see him play, so I don't know. Leave that to the experts. The Giants have had an offensive line that's been together a long time, and it's obviously helped them win 2 of the last 6 Super Bowls, but I think they're a little bit long in the tooth, and it started to show last year. Their continuity, in the line started to break down. They maybe got a half step slower, reflexes not quite as good, stamina not quite as good. I don't know what it was, but they definitely broke down a bit last year. There was too much heat on Eli, and he ended up making a lot of mistakes. Like I said, he made really poor decisions sometimes too, but he got a lot of heat on him, so I'm hoping this Richburg kid from Colorado State will help. The last couple of years also on defense, the Giants have been letting us down a little bit, and they at least attempted to address that. In the 3rd round, they got a defensive tackle from Syracuse, Jay Bromley. Again, I didn't really see him play that much. Did a little research on him. Obviously, the Giants think that he's going to be helpful, or they wouldn't have drafted him in the 3rd round. So I'm hoping that he steps up big. The other one in the 4th round that I'm really excited about is Andre Williams from Boston College. It's like a record-setting running back from Boston College. Really, really good. He's very, very durable. He's quick. He's strong. He doesn't do anything in the pass game, though. He will not catch passes out of the backfield. It might be a work in progress with him in, pass protection, but the kid can run the football, and we definitely do need that. I know that David Wilson is coming back for the Giants and from a neck injury, so I'm hoping that will be helpful. I was excited when they got Andre Williams. I think he's got potential. Just because you're great in college doesn't mean you're going to be great in the NFL. But I like his style of running, his stamina, his toughness. Odell Beckham was really exciting to me too in the 1st round. In the 5th round, we got a linebacker from USC that I actually have seen play several times, and I like him. He runs around nicely. He's got pretty good speed. He's got pretty good instincts. So hopefully they can work on that, because the last couple of years, since we won the Super Bowl, the last 2 seasons, it seemed like we've dropped off a lot on defense. We're not getting the pressure on quarterbacks we used to get. We're not stopping the run like we did 3 years ago in winning the Super Bowl. So I'm hoping Devin Kennard from USC, can be good in pass protection, as well as, tracking down some running backs, clogging up the middle a little bit. And then we got a safety, the last pick that I've seen. The end of the draft is going on right now, but from San Diego State, we got a safety, Nat Beret. I'd be lying if I knew anything about him. I've never seen the kid play, but again, I just read some things about him. They're saying, he's a little bit raw, but he's got potential. He's got good instincts. So I think the Giants have done well overall because they've been a bit weak the last 2 years on offense and defense. So, they got a wide receiver, they got a running back, they got a center, on the offense, defense, they got a defensive tackle, linebacker, safety. So they're covering like all aspects of the offense with the, running back, receiver, center. On defense, they're covering all 3 levels that they've been weak on the last couple of years. And again, some of these guys might be busts, all of them might be busts, all 6 of them might be great, which I'm hoping they are. You never know, but at least, looking at it, it seems like they've addressed issues that they had to address, and I'm hoping that these guys step up. And the Giants finished out strong last year. They started off 0-6, and then they ended up 7-9, which means they went 7-3 in the last 10 games to finish the season, not in the playoffs, but on a positive note. So I'm hoping that will carry over into the 2014 season, and their draft picks will fit in very nicely in whatever they're supposed to do. And hopefully Big Blue will be back into the playoffs, where I would love for them to be, and all of Giants Nation needs to see them there. Alright, I'm going to move on to the NBA playoffs. Tonight we got the Heat and the Nets, Game 3 in Brooklyn. And we've got the Spurs and the Blazers, also Game 3 out in Portland. Heat Nets, Heat did what they were supposed to do at home, first 2 games. Basically pulled away from the Nets in the second half of both games and won both. I picked the Heat in 5 before, even though the Heat lost all 4 games to the Nets during the season. I really wasn't worried about it. I said they're going to step up and take care of business in the playoffs, because the playoffs is a different animal. And so far they're doing that. I said the Heat in 5, so it might win. It might mean that the Nets maybe even win tonight. I'll give them a game at home, whether it's tonight or Game 4. I don't know. Probably more likely tonight, because a lot of times when you're down 3-0, it'll end up a sweep. So I won't be shocked if the Nets win tonight, because I figured they would get a game at home. So I'm going to stick with the Heat in 5 games. I don't think the Nets will put up that much of a hardship for the Heat. I won't be shocked with the Heat in 4, but I don't normally pick sweeps, even though they swept the Bobcats in the first round, and I picked the Heat in 5. I thought the Bobcats would get one at home, but they didn't. And I'm picking the same for the Nets, that they will get a game at home, either tonight or, I guess, Monday night, Game 4. But I'll say the Heat take care of business in 5. Tonight, late night tonight, 10:30. The Heat game is 8 o'clock. 10:30 game tonight in the West. Hopefully you'll stay up late and watch it. Spurs and the Blazers. Now, I picked the Spurs in 6, so I wasn't surprised that the Spurs won the first 2 games at home. I was surprised the way they won them. They just destroyed the Blazers in both games. So I know Portland's really good at home, but I don't expect Portland to win both games at home. I'm going to say that the Spurs split games 3 and 4 in Portland, and the Spurs will come back up 3-1. I did pick the Spurs in 6, so I think if the Spurs come back home up 3-1, they'll close it out in 5. And that's kind of the way I'm thinking right now, but originally I picked the Spurs in 6 games. But the Blazers just didn't show up at all in San Antonio. And they better get off to a good start tonight, because, if they're down 15 points or whatever at halftime, I'm going to say the game is over and the series is over. So Portland better come up big tonight, Monday night, or, could be over in 4 or 5. But I'll say the Blazers get at least one, but I won't be surprised at all if the Spurs get a split in Portland, because they're playing that well that I'm sure those two beatings probably got in Portland's head a little bit, because they're a really young team and they're getting dominated by the older, much more experienced team. So we'll see. But my advice to the Blazers: you better come out strong tonight in the first game, or it could be over early for you. But I don't like the Spurs. So I'm hoping the Blazers fight back, win the next two at home, and pull off a miracle. I don't anticipate that. Like I said, I think it'll be the Spurs in 6. But I'm hoping the Blazers, make me eat those words. The other one in the East, the Pacers and the Wizards, that was an awful game for 3 quarters yesterday. Neither team looked like they wanted to win at all. They were just tossing up brick after brick after brick. Terrible. An absolutely terrible game. But the Pacers rallied, especially in the 4th quarter, and ended up winning in a blowout. The Wizards only scored 63 points. That was terrible. That's like an average college score or something, 63. But the Wizards were awful. After doing a good job getting the split at Indiana, they come home and lay a tremendously big, smelly egg and give control of the series right back to the Pacers. Pacers are up 2-1. They're feeling good. I picked the Pacers in 7 before the series started. I figured the Wizards would be tough, and they were. They actually could have won both games. But, wow, they were awful. Last night in Game 3, I'm going to stay with the same prediction I made. I'm going to say the Pacers in 7. But it won't go nearly 7 if the Wizards come out tomorrow night and played like they played last night. They'll be down 3-1, going back to Indiana, and Indiana will close it out in 5 if the Wizards lay another egg tomorrow at home. But I'm saying that the Wizards will battle back, make it a series, and the Pacers will win in 7 games. And the final series, back over to the West, Thunder did a good job after the Clippers got the split in Oklahoma City, which is a good thing. If you start on the road, of course you want to win both, but you're satisfied if you get a split, which the Clippers got in OKC. But then, the Thunder came back and took control again in LA the other night, and I think I said the Thunders would win in 6. The Oklahoma City Thunder, not Thunders. I said they would win in 6 before the series started. I'm going to stick with that. As if you've heard before, I picked the Thunder to win it all. Not that I want them to, because I actually want the Heat to win it all and three-peat. But I picked the Thunder to beat the Heat in the finals, and who knows, that may get adjusted as I go along if either one or both gets knocked out before then. But it's 2-1 Thunder over the Clippers right now, and I'm going to say that the Thunder will win in 6. Maybe the Clippers will come out and tie the game, and then tie the series, and then the Clippers, will get back into it by tying up the series, obviously. But I think the Thunder will be too much, especially at home. I don't think the Thunder are going to lose again at home to the Clippers. I think the Clippers got the one they're going to get, and I'm going to stick with the Thunder winning in 6 games. Now, don't forget tonight, Heat, 8 o'clock Eastern in Brooklyn against the Nets. 10:30 Eastern, the Spurs at Portland. Both of those are Game 4, so that'll be exciting. Tomorrow night, you get the Pacers and the Wizards, Thunder and the Clippers. One of them may be an afternoon game. I don't know. I'll have to check the schedule, see what's going on. But that's all I have for now. I hope you have a great weekend. Enjoy watching the finishing touches of the draft, the baseball. Hockey playoffs are going off big, but I haven't really touched much on the hockey because all of the other sports are bigger and have more news right now. But if you love the hockey, enjoy that. Don't forget the NBA tonight and tomorrow. But whatever you do, make it a wonderful weekend. Follow me on Twitter and Facebook Sportsocology Shows on YouTube, so please subscribe to that. And have a great weekend, whatever you're doing, sports and anything else you're doing. Enjoy it. Thank you very much for listening. I'm very grateful. I appreciate it. And I'll see you next time, America, wherever you are.